Hi, hello, Keller High School parents and junior parents of class of 2022. My name is Wes Upton, and I'm the lead counselor here at Keller High School. And I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Dr. Randy Colvin. And tonight we hope to cover some material that we've covered with your junior students through their English class about a month ago. And then we hope to amplify that with you all so that you can partner with your students, have conversations maybe over the next upcoming break and get some of this stuff going around the house so that your students are ready for their final year and a half at Keller High School and for everything that's coming thereafter. So let me introduce you to the counselors here. And as we look, I just want to introduce and highlight, we do have one new counselor, Miss Vicki Neese, who's joined us, and she took on the first part of the alphabet from Miss Mayfield, if you've been working with her for the last couple of years. Miss Neese is a Keller community member, a parent of Keller High student. So she's probably familiar face to many of you, but she's been a great addition to our team. And the rest of us are the same counselors that have been around since your students started high school. So we're glad to see you guys almost getting to that finish line of high school and are excited to have been working with you for this long time. Another new face that we have here, of course, is Dr. Colvin and his position. Dr. Colvin, you want to tell us who you are a little bit, what your position is?
Sure. I am Randy Colvin, college and career counselor and military as well. And I am located in the library. Excited to be here at Keller High School.
All right, thank you, thank you. As we move forward, we've got a couple other really important people that run the office. We have Miss Peters, who is our office manager, and Miss Sturz, who is our registrar. Very important people to get to know, especially as you get towards graduation. Example, Miss Sturz will be the person who sends out all of your transcripts to institutions after high school. All right, so there's some things that we're going to cover tonight, and I want to make sure we go over the things that we will cover, and we'll also talk about some of the things that we won't cover. But through this presentation, we hope to go through material related to graduation requirements, things that you should be accomplishing or starting at least in the junior year, testing information, SAT, ACT, post-secondary options, all the things that your student has available to them after they graduate from high school, and then college visits, and then finally scholarship opportunities. Some of the things that we will not be covering are college application information, ordering transcripts, college essays, recommendation letters, and financial aid. And the reason that we don't cover all of that is we would be here for several hours. We want you guys to have enough information to digest, but not so much that you're just overwhelmed with everything that we have to share. So we do have some information, though, that Dr. Colvin could tell you about that they've put together recently for seniors.
Yes, so the other college and career counselors and myself put together a YouTube video, and we have put that on the seniors tab of the Keller High School Counseling website. And if you want to go into more depth about the college application process, then we hope you will check out the Life After High School video.
All right, and that is already on the senior page of the Keller High School Counseling site, so feel free to check that out if you want to be an advanced learner and jump on that at any moment.
We also want to encourage you to get connected with us on social media if you have not already. We have the Keller High School Counselor Corner Facebook page, where we will put announcements and important content that we hope will be helpful to you of a counseling nature or of a college nature. And then also we have our two Twitter handles here. If you are on Twitter, please follow us. We have the Counseling High School Twitter, and then also the Twitter, the College and Career Center Twitter, that's Keller_Go. And I'll put information about scholarships and college and just life after high school resources on the Twitter page there. And speaking about social media, we'll kind of jump into some of the meat of our presentation here. And we just want to mention that it's important that students are careful with their social media. You know, what they post, what they say, and just being cognizant of the fact that colleges do sometimes look at these social media accounts. And so it's just important to be careful what you post.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to jump right into some of the meat and potatoes, if you will, of what it's going to be required of your student to graduate from Keller High School. This is information that we've been covering with them since they've been in the middle school ranks and started working out 4-year plans back in 8th grade and talking about it even some in 7th grade. But as we move forward, we want to make sure that you guys are also aware of this. As counselors, we're checking in this all the time, making sure that your students are signed up for everything that they need to graduate and getting to that finish line. But it's always nice to have an extra set of eyes and an extra set of understanding students and parents to make sure we're watching this as well. So in order to graduate, we require what we call the 4x4. So 4 years of each of the 4 core credit areas: English, math, science, and social studies. So I won't go through all of the requirements there, but you'll see that you have to have English 1, 2, 3, 4, algebra, geometry, algebra 2, and advanced math, biology, chemistry, physics, and a couple of advanced sciences, and then the social studies pathways as well. Reminder that the opportunity to take pre-AP, dual credit AP exists in many of these courses as well. And one little piece is that what we'll find is that many colleges are still saying that they prefer physics and chemistry as part of a good, well-rounded high school education for college admissions standards. It may not be required to get into all colleges, but we're still hearing from admissions officers that they do prefer those courses being on a student's high school transcript. Beyond that, to continue what we might call the foundation of what a student is required to graduate, we would have 2 years of the same world language, a year of a fine art, 1 PE, and it doesn't just have to be PE, a sport could count, or some of the other courses that can be substituted like cheer or band can take the place of a PE credit. A half credit of a 21st century skill, most commonly professional communications. And then students are going to earn an endorsement by following a pathway and something along the lines of arts and sciences, a STEM pathway, or a public service pathway, or things along those lines. So, and our students have been working on those, like I said, since 4-year plans in 8th grade, well on their way at this point as juniors of earning all of these things. But we just want to make sure that we cover this with you guys and that you guys are completely up to speed with what this looks like as a parent, so that you can be our partner in this process with your student and your counselor throughout the rest of the high school. We cover this in registration with students and make sure we're still on path. So every time that we do registration, we'll sit down with students one-on-one, make sure everything looks like they're on the right path and that everything looks good for graduation. But we always, like I said, have some partners in this that can be helpful. All right, beyond that, that's the coursework, but each student's required to pass 5 end-of-course exams. The typical student, by the time they're a junior, has taken 4 of those: English 1, 2, Algebra 1, and Biology, and then U.S. History is typically the last EOC exam that a student will have to take, which is typically in the spring of the junior year. So let's talk a little bit about what Keller High School students look like in college. So we track a lot of data, and one of the things that we know is that 84% of our Keller High School students go to college right after high school. So that's going to be either a 2 or a 4-year school. And within the 2 years after high school, 89% of our students, so we actually up that percentage by 5%. So we see a really strong college-going culture amongst our students at Keller High. Most of the other students, so somewhere in the rest of that range, the vast majority of them either go to a technical school or the U.S. military. So you're seeing that almost every one of our students after they graduate from Keller High School is going on for some form of post-secondary training or education. One of the things that's fascinating, though, is while 84% of our students who attend college come back for their sophomore year, which means that they are prepared for college when they walk in the door. They don't get overwhelmed in that freshman year. They transition well. Only 65% of Keller High School students graduate from college in 6 years. So that's an area that we try to focus on. And I'm going to let Dr. Colvin talk to us about what maybe is behind some of that.
Thank you. So we think part of the reason that some students may not finish as well is due to college choice. We think that might be part of the equation. And so we really want to emphasize the importance of having a thoughtful process for choosing a college. And hopefully if students choose the right college that has the right academics, the right amenities, the right campus experiences, then they're going to finish college. And so getting college choice right is really important. And I want to share a few resources for you. we're going to put this on the junior page of the Keller High Counseling website, and so you'll be able to click these links. There's niche.com is a terrific resource, and you can get many key details about colleges through that site. And then there's College Navigator, which is another useful resource, and you can research which colleges offer which programs. And then Admit is a great resource for trying to figure out the cost of a college. And so they use Admit's thing is they look at, for instance, the cost of a college that is publicized, you know, kind of the sticker price they call it, versus the actual cost that students tend to pay. So they look at what college costs net of scholarships that typically are received and net of financial aid or grants that might be provided. So they give you maybe a more realistic picture of what college might cost. And then Big Future is another site put out by College Board, the SAT people. And it's been a long-term resource for Keller students for choosing a college. And then we want to just talk about just a timeline, kind of some to-dos for juniors. Obviously, they're going to want to look at their transcripts and look at their credits and make sure they have all the graduation requirements that Mr. Upton spoke about. We're also going to recommend that they keep a file of important items, such as, you know, maybe volunteer hours, awards, or recognitions they've received, different organizations they've been a part of, things that are going to be useful to them when they apply to college in just a few months. And then also a resume is an important piece that many colleges do ask for, and it's also just very useful to create that resume, and you'll have everything ready when you do apply for college and apply for scholarships. Another thing that's important at this time is just asking yourself, what do I want to be when I grow up, and reflecting on different career possibilities. And of course, reflecting on post-secondary options like 2-year, 4-year college, military, trade school. Spring of junior year is an important time to take the SAT and the ACT. And so that's another important to do. And then researching schools and colleges, visiting schools, and then finally, if you are a student athlete, registering with NCAA.
All right. Thank you. All right, so I'll talk briefly about transcripts and GPAs and ranks, and I will address a question that's come up. GPAs are recalculated every semester, so just be aware GPA is not calculated at each marking period, but at the end of each semester. So what we will see is that GPAs will be recalculated at the end of January of 21. So after we finish the semester that's finishing up here in the next week or so here, then it'll take a few weeks when we get back to be able to recalculate GPAs, and then transcripts and GPAs should be updated at that time. There was a question asked if, when Aries was going to have that information up and available, and it should be at that time after the first semester of this year rolls over. It's important to recognize too that as you send your transcripts off to colleges, they're really going to be looking at that GPA from the first 3 years of high school. It's what we call a 6-semester transcript. So most college decisions are really made on those first 3 years of high school. So continue to emphasize with your student to do the best that they possibly can in this time. It is still important that senior grades look good, but especially important these first 3 years, because that will be the first glance that most colleges will have of your student's academic record. Continuing on, we do want you to know that GPA will be recalculated again in the spring of your senior year, and that many colleges will want a mid-year report. So as your student moves through December and in January of their senior year, colleges, many of them will say, hey, can we get a mid-year report? I know we've already received everything. We might be on the verge or having even made a decision, but we want to make sure your student's staying on the course that we've seen so far through high school. Or it may be that they just need a little more additional information to make that final decision on your student's admission decision. It's also important to know that rank will lock at the end of the third quarter for your student's class, although GPA will continue to be calculated right up till the end of high school for your student. One of the things that we encourage, and this kind of goes back to what Dr. Kaltman was saying a moment ago, is that we just really want to encourage students to keep good information on themselves through their through the things that they've accomplished. And this is both as they get to be in high school. What we'll find is there's a number of colleges that may be reaching out to them, or institutions that may be reaching out to them. So keep that information, organize it in some way. If you don't want it anymore, go ahead and recycle it or get rid of it. If you know that, if you know you want it, then keep a drawer or something where you can keep all of that handy so you can rifle through it as needed. It's also important as a student to help them maybe keep track of that in a virtual sense as well through their email, because they will get lots and lots of email potentially in the coming years, and it can be overwhelming. So helping them just kind of figure out a system for that, how they'll file that away. In addition, it's really important, as we have referenced as well, that we keep a good resume. And within a resume, one of the things that I encourage students now rather than later, if you try to write a resume the night before an application is due, you'll be under a lot of stress, and you may not remember everything important that you did in your freshman year. So it would be good now to create some form of vita or some sort of just a running list, even if it's in a Google Doc, that allows your student to track what they've been involved with and what they've done, including things like involvement in different organizations, like whether it be volunteer work, whether it be band, athletics, academic competitions, or awards, and keeping that on an annual basis. And then if you want to start organizing it into a resume, that's great. And as time goes on, then you can begin to distill out, oh, these are rising to be more important, and I'll push out some of the less important things my freshman year. But you never know when you start looking at it, if you can just keep that information flowing and organized throughout the whole time you're in high school. I think that will help make life easier for you as you move into the senior year. It's also important as you go through that to continue to include information on like time commitments to those things and any specific duties that were performed in that time. That will also be a very great resource to provide to someone if you're asking a teacher or a counselor in the senior year, hey, I need a letter of rec, here's my resume. That's a nice bonus for the person that's having to write on your behalf, because it gives them some great information that you've organized for them and that you have ready.
So you, as we talked about, junior year is a great time to reflect on this question of what you want to do when you grow up. And we don't want you to be, if you don't know, we don't want you to be too worried about this, because of course many students do start college as an undecided major, and that is okay. However, we do want to share a couple of resources. One would be this list here of career interest surveys. Great opportunity to try to figure out what you might be interested in, which is important in deciding a career. And then the ASVAB is a really nice opportunity as well. And the ASVAB is more focused on aptitudes or strengths, like what are you good at? And there's a long history of many people taking the ASVAB, and so they compare you to all the thousands of people who have taken this test before, and then you get a report, and it can be very interesting, and it can definitely be helpful in deciding a career. And so on January 14th and January 21st at Keller High in the lecture hall, we are going to offer the ASVAB. And if you will pull up the PDF of this presentation, you'll have the link there to register. And then finally, it can be helpful to shadow somebody in the field if that is an opportunity that you could have, to see, what you're interested in, and if you actually like the job that you think you will like.
Awesome. Thank you. I can remember my ASVAB results from high school myself, so those are good. I was supposedly very good at clerical skills, just in case anyone's concerned about that. All right, so let's talk about some of the post-secondary options that are out there. Um, I'll start with some, and then Dr. Colvin will take over and talk about several of these as well. But I'll begin with two-year colleges or universities. A junior community college oftentimes are a great option for different students for various different reasons. You can earn an associate's degree, and that you can also gather some of the core curriculum or the foundational things that would be available to then transfer into a four-year university to apply at that point. These schools do in fact offer financial aid and scholarships. They are considerably cheaper than a four-year university. I think right now a course at a community college like TCC for one of our students is roughly $200. So it's a very affordable way to begin your post-high school education. The other thing is that it's a great bridge into four-year schools as well. So we'll find that four-year universities can be very accepting of transfer students right from these two-year institutions. They may not look at all of your experiences that you've had in high school, meaning they may not look back at your high school GPA so much. They may not need to know your SAT or ACT score. In fact, they can just use your performance in college as an indicator of your ability to be a successful four-year college student from there. Sometimes people think if I go to, and I'm going to use TCC as our local school, then, I'm not really going away to college. And that may be true if you go to TCC because it is so close. But there are two-year schools that allow living on campus or right near campus. And you can have a very college experience, a college experience that would be very comparable to a four-year college experience. Beyond that, there are also several schools that many of our students might attend that I would deem maybe your feeder schools. The prime example of that would be Blinn, which is the feeder school essentially for Texas A&M. So a lot of students, Texas A&M, one of the great institutions in the state of Texas, many of our students want to attend there. Some people can't get in at their first try, so they can go to Blinn. If you do well at Blinn, within a year, you could be transferring right into Texas A&M and being able to do that. Another example listed here would be South Plains College right outside of Lubbock as a feeder school to get into tech. There are people that live in College Station, attend Blinn, and transfer to A&M at that point. Beyond that, we do have four-year institutions, four-year universities. These colleges will offer a bachelor's degree. Oftentimes graduate work as well are available at these schools. Again, scholarship and financial aid is available at these. Most, if not all, will offer on-site housing dorms and that. It's typically going to require a little higher level of academic achievement to gain acceptance into these schools, and that varies from school to school. Some have very, very strict standards of admissions, and some are a little more lax. What you will find is that you have many, many options for majors at these institutions. It's important to research that. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but lots of options for majors. And for the most part, a four-year degree will focus on a broad set of general curriculum in the first couple of years and then begin to specialize more solidly into a major and a minor area within the last 2 years of your experience at the university.
Some of our students at Keller High School will end up selecting a trade or a technical school. And there are a couple of examples there on the slide: Texas State Technical College and UTI. And really even TCC has many of these types of trade and technical programs as well. And there are many programs such as welding, HVAC, electrician, and then TSTC has just numerous programs that can prepare for specific jobs. And these are shorter programs, typically can be 1 to 2 years. And so these can be a great option for many of our students. And then many of our students will also choose a career in the military. And again, there are so many terrific options with military and how to go about that. And definitely we encourage students to talk to a recruiter, but maybe they want, it's usually a good idea to involve the family in that discussion. And we do want to caution students not to sign paperwork without discussing that with their parents. But the military can really be a great option. Obviously, it has terrific benefits. One of the benefits that I think is really great are just the educational benefits that come with the military. And then some of our students will choose to go to college, but their long-term goal is to possibly go into the military. And so they may want to be a part of a college ROTC program. And some students will get into these college ROTC programs and get scholarships. And sometimes there can be some really terrific scholarships associated with college ROTC programs that would allow students to get their bachelor's degree and then go into the military as an officer. So if you're interested in a career in the military, we do recommend that you take the ASVAB. As I mentioned, we're going to have it at Keller High School on January 14th and January 21st. So please register for that. And then some students do want to go straight into the workforce. And the one thing I would mention about that is regardless of what job you're going to do right out of high school, I would say in just about every instance, you're going to want to get some additional training, some additional education of some kind. So definitely be thinking about that, and please reach out to me if you want to talk more about that and on how education can help you if you do, even if you do want to go straight into the workforce. So we want to jump in and talk about ACT and SAT. First of all, both of these tests are accepted by just about every college. They're really universal tests. And we do recommend that you take both tests. And really the spring of the junior year is a terrific time to do that. And so if you take both tests, the great thing about it is you can kind of get a feel for which test is the best test for you. Just so you know, in March, we're going to offer the school-wide SAT. And so that you will get an opportunity as a junior to take the SAT. So if you wanted to go ahead and sign up for a test, one of the best one would be to sign up for the ACT, since you're already going to take the SAT in March. And then you would be all set to take both tests in spring of junior year. And of course, to take those tests, you do have to register for them on the College Board website and on the ACT.org website. ACT allows a calculator on all sections, and SAT does allow on some of the math sections. For both of these tests, if you need accommodations, maybe you have a 504 plan, maybe you have an ARD committee or an IEP that says you need accommodations, there is a special way you register for those tests on those sites. And then also you would want to reach out to Ms. Brianna Holt, our testing coordinator, to get help so that you can be sure that you get those accommodations on the test. And then let's talk a little bit more about the ACT. The ACT, it has a score range of 1 to 36, with 36 as a perfect score. And our students here at Keller High really do a nice job on this ACT. The average Keller High School score is above the national average in the 24 to 25 range. And there are 5 sections on the ACT: the English, math, reading, science, and the optional essay. And then the total score is just the average of each of those subscores. And let's talk about the SAT for a minute. There are 2 main sections on the SAT, and students will score between 200 to 800 on each section, with 1600 being a perfect score. Again, Keller High students really do a nice job on average on this as well, and they are above the national average, around 1200. And the SAT does cover critical reading, math, and writing. And if you go to the next slide, Mr. Upton. And then also there's an optional writing portion on the SAT, just like there is on the ACT. And it is a time test, and so it's important that students practice in a timed environment so that they are used to that aspect of it. And then also with the SAT, you are not penalized for guessing. So So now Mr. Upton is going to provide us some advice about getting ready for the SAT and the ACT.
All right, thank you. One thing I will say too, just on one flashback on some of that information, you know, I think the timed portion of it is very important. Our students are not necessarily accustomed to how quickly these tests require them to move. For some students, that's not an issue, but we have been practiced in a lot of ways for our end of course and STAR exams through their lives to have 4 hours to answer maybe 60 or 70 questions. And on these tests, you're going to see questions coming at a rate that's much faster than that. They're capable. Our students are very capable of doing the work at that speed. They just may not be accustomed to it. So just practicing some time can really be important to just gathering comfort level with feeling like, oh my gosh, this happens very quickly. And that speaks to the idea of practice is important for these tests. You can prepare for these tests. Really the best preparation that your kids are doing already is going to school. The content that's going to be covered is going to be covered in a math class. It's going to be covered in an English class. It's going to be covered, honestly, in a history and a science class as they go through all of their core classes, and even their electives will be preparing them for these tests. But these tests really are to test what a student is learning, not what a student innately knew from the time they were born. So you can learn the material and you can learn the way test questions are asked, and you can understand the type of questions that are going to show up with regularity. So very important that your students spend some time preparing. I know it's quite often students and families will say, well, let's just take it and see how we do, and then we'll try again. And that's fine if you want to get a baseline, but I would always suggest let's prepare and take it and see how we do, and then let's prepare some more and see how much we can do better. For SAT, they have a partnership with Khan Academy. Most of us have heard of that company, and they're a great study tool. Khan Academy's partnered with SAT, and they can give free resources for students. And I'm a huge fan of this program on a personal level. If you take the SAT or the PSAT, you can grant permission for those scores that your students have produced directly with Khan Academy, and they will provide your student with very highly personalized content to study and practice. So rather than going through a giant review or going and just guessing as to what areas are strengths and weaknesses, based on your student's actual performance, you can go in and get study tools that will focus on the areas that need improvement. I believe Khan Academy publishes, and then College Board actually publishes, that 20 hours of work with Khan Academy on average results in about 115 or 120 point improvement in scores. And I can tell you just from this year's PSAT scores at Keller High School, I've talked to 2 different families just in these last 2 weeks whose students did nothing but Khan Academy with a lot of hours. I'm not going to pretend that they didn't spend a ton of time on there, but they did. And I've seen students with 200-point improvements on their SAT scores, which is just a huge jump in. And for parents, that can mean college admissions into a totally different bracket of schools. That can mean a totally different bracket of scholarship eligibility. So recognize that time commitment could be worth a lot of money to you. Similarly, ACT has an ACT Academy that they have created, a very similar type resource that they utilize that's available for students to utilize as part of a preparation for ACT. So really want to encourage students and families to utilize studying for these tests, preparing for these tests, because there is just an infinite amount of research out there and data that will show that is worth it through and through. So spend your time preparing for these tests. Transitioning to the process of going off to college, right? So we talked about college choice being very important early on in this conversation. And we want to make sure that when you're researching colleges, you have some sense of why and what you're looking for, right? So it's important to know what it is that a degree might require, what type of classes, what type of coursework, how much work is, how many different type of classes, are these going to be courses that are going to be of interest, is a major going to be of interest there? What's the application requirement? Deadlines are so important in the college application process. Deadlines are deadlines. If you call and say, I just need to be a day late, can I get a 70 on this? The answer is no. They do not accept late work in the college application deadline world. Beyond that, looking for regions for where a college is located, that might be important. You might be surprised. A conversation with your student might really lend you to understanding better that, oh, I really want to stay where it's warm, or I want to go somewhere in a completely different climate where it's really cold and we have fall and we have seasons, things like that. Also, it may be important to understand, like, is it an urban environment, is it a suburban environment, is it a more rural environment? Those types of things may really be important. The other things that are important to recognize about a college life is just what does what does the overall campus look like? What do dorms look like? What type of rec center do they have? What type of activities, student organizations, fraternities, sororities, any of those types of things that might be important. Researching those, finding those matching colleges so that you can begin to create a list so that you know where you want to go visit. I know right now it's hard to say that you're going to go off and drive around the country and visit all the schools, but I'm hopeful that it won't be too long that you'll be able to do that. But do remember that when you're looking on websites and brochures and things, you're going to see the best that they have to offer. So sometimes it's important, if you can, to get down there and see what a school looks like and have an opportunity to really dig into what that school has to offer just beyond the front page of a website or the front page of a brochure. Continuing on with college visits, there's a lot here, so I'll try to go through this fairly quickly. Just some ideas of things when you're there. Sometimes students aren't quite sure what to do with themselves for those couple of maybe a few hours that you would visit. But it's important to not just necessarily show up and go to a football game, which I would be a big fan of doing, mind you, but there's a deeper meaning and a deeper understanding that you might want to do when you go visit a campus. So take a proper tour, sign up for a campus tour with the admissions office. Talk to people while you're there, get business cards, check out financial aid. Parents, you may be most interested in that. Sit in on a class if they'll let you audit a class. Many colleges will allow that, so check on that. Maybe start an email conversation now with the professor in the major that your student is interested in. Reaching out to coaches if you think you have a student athlete that may want to have some conversations. And then, talk to current students, maybe talk to somebody in the Career Center about what jobs are available. Pick up a copy of the campus newspaper. That's a really great way to see what kind of culture a campus may have, and so that you can understand a lot about that school. Again, I've got a lot of these options, and I know you won't do all of these, but it's just giving you and your students something to do when you're on that campus. Like I said, eating food. Typically a college tour may come with a chance to eat in the cafeteria. I think that's always nice. Students like to see that. Then really kind of focusing in on, why your student is interested in that school, maybe on the way there, maybe on the way back, like what stood out. If you are on a tour, take a little time before or after to just roam around on your own, maybe find some things that might be more interesting. And then asking those students, what is your favorite thing about here at school here? What's something you dislike about this school? Just to get some ideas of what's going on. Listen to the college radio station if they have it. Again, lots of ways to see what the culture and climate is of a school that may not just be about what the buildings look like. So that would be very, very important. All right, Dr. Coleman's going to talk to us a little bit about NCAA.
So if you have a student who is likely to be a collegiate athlete, then or has a good shot to play college ball, then definitely they should be thinking about registering with NCAA or NAIA, depending on what colleges they might be going to. And those organizations cover different colleges. And so the main thing to know here is that there is each of these organizations has a website for students. They have to create an account. They need to send their transcript, and they need to send either SAT or ACT scores to those organizations, and also pay registration fees unless they're eligible for a fee waiver. And the other piece to consider is they have approved courses. And so just checking with your counselor or checking with me to make sure you're on track with those NCAA approved courses, and also just that you're on track with the 4x4 curriculum, which you probably are. And that by 4x4, I mean like math, English, science, and social studies.
And I'll tell you, just to amplify that a little bit, Dr. Coleman, your coaches typically are great resources with that, and can be a great resource to supplement working with your counselor and your coaches. And then, of course, the schools that maybe are interested in you at some point will definitely help guide you through this path as well. So a lot of resources to help students that may be future collegiate athletes.
Thank you, Mr. Upton. And then we wanted to give just a couple of ideas about scholarships to you. One is a website called raise.me, and it's a great way to start earning money. even for juniors. Actually, even for freshmen, they can start earning money, and different colleges participate. So you can see there are hundreds of colleges on the site, and we do have many Keller students that are using Raise.me to earn money at colleges that they're interested in going to. And so they can earn money throughout their high school career and then use it at that particular college. And so check that site out. It's very useful. And then there's also the College Board Opportunity Scholarships. And again, this is really helpful because it encourages students to do things that they really should be doing anyways, such as building a list of colleges, taking their SAT, studying for their SAT. And each time you do one of these steps, you get entered in for a $500 scholarship. And then if you complete all of the steps, you get entered in for a $40,000 scholarship from the SAT people. So I guess they have a lot of money, and so they like to give some of that money back in scholarships. So we're glad they do. And then, the last piece that I will tell you is most of the scholarships are for seniors. There are scholarships for underclassmen as well, but it's important to start building a scholarship list and looking for scholarships that your student can apply for.
All right, guys. So we really appreciate you joining us tonight. And this presentation we will post on YouTube and make available on our Keller High School Counseling site. We'll put it on our junior page. We'll put it on the front page for a while. But we want to make sure that this is available for you. And if you have any questions, that we're here to help you with everything. So we really appreciate everyone coming out tonight and joining us for this event. We hope that this information has been helpful. We also hope that this will, like I said, generate a conversation that will go along with you and your student, because they've gotten this information as well. So we hope that this will be something that can help them recall what we've talked to them about in school, and then it can spur some action that you guys can take as a family in preparation for graduating from Keller High and all the great things that are going to happen thereafter. So thank you guys again for watching our video, and we look forward to working with you for the next 18 months.
Thank you. Good night.